You're on Flo's Sports Fix, our debut show today, and looking forward to having this next conversation with our world game guru. He's got the looks of Les Murray, the knowledge of Lucy Zelic. It's our very own Ellis Gelios. I should have got that the other way around, I think, Ellis, somehow.
It doesn't matter which way around you got it out there in the end. That was a fantastic introduction. I'm very pleased with that one, and so excited to again be joined to bang out some content with you guys and what's been such a fantastic network so far.
It is. It's fun. We're enjoying talking about the beautiful game, as they call it, and as the late Les Murray used to call it as well. And we're at match week 26 with the English Premier League. There were some interesting results over the weekend. One that I know was particularly quite happy for you and I this morning. But let's not only talk about that, and just on that, is this a turning point for Liverpool as they do the home stretch run? But what were some of the other big results too?
Look, as far as things go for Liverpool, I'm not sure that it's a turning point. We've seen this movie before, particularly with the result a couple of weeks ago in the Champions League against Leipzig, where Liverpool got a comfortable 2-0 victory away from home, and then everyone started pumping up their tyres about potentially turning things around domestically, and obviously that hadn't happened up until this morning. So I'd be cautious to get back on the bandwagon as far as things go with Liverpool, Clayton, but it's probably worth noting as well that, against a team that's dead last and I think very much comfortably resigned to relegation, Liverpool fans should certainly not get too far ahead of themselves. But we did have some other quite surprising results, particularly a Tottenham side that has come back to what looks like their best after disappointing for so many weeks in a row against Burnley. And the big story there was Gareth Bale. We did see Harry Kane returning to the goal scorers list as well, but this is all about Gareth Bale. He scored a very early goal, which was contentious. They did go to the VAR for it, the VAR, but not ruled out, and they just went from there. Tottenham really stormed home against Burnley side that's despite their eccentric manager, have really failed to produce anything of significant note this season.
I also noticed there was a very interesting draw this morning between Chelsea and Man United.
Yes. Interestingly enough for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, this is another result this season where he's failed to get maximum points against the so-called Big Six. If you go back and look, this season he's failed to beat anyone from the Big Six. So that's interesting to note. But yeah, Manchester United, I think this is probably one that they would like to have won, considering that gap has just extended between them and Manchester City, who are obviously leading the table and leading the table quite comfortably. United might count themselves a little bit unfortunate not to have been the beneficiaries of a VAR decision. They were quite possibly robbed from a penalty which should have gone their way, but as we said off air, Clayton, they've certainly been fortunate to receive a lot of penalties that have been overturned concerning the VAR after the fact. We know that they've pieced together a lot of their impressive results through that mechanism as far as this season has gone. So I think everything sort of balances out in the end, and that's what Man United fans unfortunately had to endure today. But for Chelsea as well, a decent point for them, considering how positive their momentum has been since the axing of Frank Lampard and Thomas Tuchel coming in.
Is the loss to Arsenal for Leicester, is that going to be... How significant is that loss to Leicester in their position and their hopes to finish in there? Because I think they're looking at top two. They won't make number one, but they'll be looking for that second spot. This is going to slow their momentum down, surely.
I'm not sure I agree, to be honest, Clayton. I think Leicester are just this fantastic beast of a side that seem to be able to turn things around very, very quickly after what would seem on paper a devastating result. We've seen, Leicester win. I think they'd won 4 or 5 games in a row back towards the start of the season, and then they came up against Liverpool. Liverpool absolutely destroyed them. And then straight after that, they were back at it again, just picking up very handy points against formidable outfits. So I'm not overly worried about them. I think what will be more of a concern will obviously be keeping their best players fit, because we know how action-packed the last couple of months of the league will be. A lot of fixtures packed into short weeks with short turnarounds, and obviously a lot of clubs having other competitions to worry about as well. Always becomes a bit of a problem. So yeah, I think that's probably the main issue Leicester will have. Otherwise, I see them finishing in the top four. If I'm honest, probably more likely than Chelsea and West Ham.
Okay, well, hopefully Liverpool will join them. Now, Ellis, I want to ask you about the bottom end of the table. At the moment, well, you mentioned Liverpool, they beat the bottom dwellers, Sheffield United, this morning 2-0. You could almost look at where they're sitting and that they're going to drop down. West Brom are in a very dangerous spot. They'll probably will. Who's going to join them? I've got a funny feeling it's going to be Newcastle.
Based on the nature of performances, you may well be right. Newcastle at home against Wolverhampton, considering how fine the margin is between them and Fulham, who obviously occupy that first spot in the relegation zone, you would have thought Newcastle would give it their very best and go all out. But they didn't do that. They opted to counter-attack Wolves, which is always very dangerous. It looked like they might have pulled it off after they went ahead through their captain, Jamal Lascelles, with a great header. But to be honest, Wolves were very unlucky not to win this game. They came back with Ruben Neves equalising for them. The Bronco in goal for Newcastle should have kept it out. But the point is that they were very fortunate to get a point at home. And considering the fact that Fulham will eye off the 12 games left and note that, they've got more than a chance to get out of the relegation zone against a Newcastle side that we know are not flash when it comes to their actual performances. I think, it could be troublesome times for Newcastle. We know how much it's pegged that club back to be relegated. They're a massive club. They're really the biggest club in that part of the north in England. A massive fan base, obviously. They produce some iconic players over their time, but they're not a club that can be getting relegated in the climate that we're in. And I know they've bounced back every time it's happened, but you would think, given their ownership situation and how fragile that all seems to be looking at the moment with Mike Ashley, the last thing those supporters would be wanting at the moment is to really be entrenched in a relegation battle as the season drags on. So, and as for West Brom, I think we can safely say, just by the way, that Sheffield have gone. But as for West Brom in 19th spot, they did manage to get a win, which will fill their fans with some very, very cautious optimism. They'd be clutching at straws to think they're really much of a chance. But we've probably seen crazier things happen. Was it West Brom that managed to get themselves out of the rut back in that famous 2004 season when they were dead bottom at Christmas, and then they managed to get that huge turnover towards the last 3 months and stay up? I'm pretty sure it was West Brom. So, it's happened before, but I think given that they just haven't really recruited well enough this season, they're probably paying the price for that, Clayton.
Yes, I tend to agree with you there. I mean, I've always got a soft spot for some of the sides, and Newcastle in particular, and their off-field dramas, I think, are going to play a big, important role in their future, and I think it's not looking very, very good. But hopefully they might turn something around. I guess we'll wait and see. With those bottom-end clubs, it's not a good spot to be at any time of the year. But especially as we know, with only 12 games to go, it's not going to be good. Now, Ellis, just before I let you go, there's some big games coming up this week. I know you'll be talking about them Friday night on the sports show with the Flow Man and the Stat Man. I just want to get your tip early on a couple of them, if I may, and one of them being Liverpool and Chelsea.
Yeah, this will be a really interesting game. I'm really hesitant to make a call, to be honest, but I'm going to go with Liverpool just purely because they're the home side. I think there'll be something in the air. Players, obviously, they want to play for Jurgen Klopp, and we know how difficult the last month has been for the club. So I can see them winning this one, but purely that's just based off emotion and, the devastation of the last month all sort of being behind them. Yeah. So I think Liverpool will get up.
And just as we wrap it up, Ellis, just one quick one I noticed coming up very soon is that we just talked about them, the bottom dwellers there, West Brom in 19th spot and Newcastle in 17th. They're actually going to be playing each other very soon. So how significant this particular game, and I want to get your call early on it. I'm going to go for Newcastle just so it makes you go the other way.
It'll be a significant game, no doubt about that whatsoever, but for me this has a ball draw written all over it. I think West Brom at home will ensure that Newcastle do not set out to attack from the off, and I think that'll just result in a draw. I don't see West Brom being good enough to really break this Newcastle side down. So for me, you'd be brave to go against a draw for me.
Yeah, it's one of those games. It's at the bottom end of the table. You look at it and you think, oh, that won't be fun to watch, but it's actually going to be a ripper game. I really do see that. Anyway,
I think it'll be pivotal for both managers to really work on their set pieces ahead of this one. I think that's the only way we'll see some kind of ledger being broken. But otherwise, I don't see either side winning.
All right, we'll leave it there, and no doubt you'll have more to talk about with the guys on the Sports Show on Friday. Ellis, thank you so much for spending some time with us on our Sports Fix, our first one, as we roll through it. Thank you for being a part of it, and I'm sure you will be in the future too.
As always, thanks so much for having me.